It's all yours, Jill.
Thanks. Welcome. Thank you, Karen. Thank you all for letting me, sit with you in your homes for a little while during this important week, survivorship week. Karen asked what I might be able to speak to. As a yoga teacher for over 15 years and a wellness instructor, I taught a great many programs in wellness, and I do teach, yoga and meditation. So I thought about what might be useful. In my experience, I like to hear a certain amount of facts and research to support what someone is telling me, but I also need to feel it. I need to understand it in my own life and how I could actually use it, and not in some, woo-woo atmosphere that I don't live in. So I try to take all the things that I've learned, and I will mention some of these sources, and bring it together and bring it to you so that it's something that you can actually visualize doing in your own life every day. And very often it's things that I know can be done because I have done them. I consider myself Joanne Q. Public when it comes to a lot of different things. And that I'm a very average person. I live a life with my husband and my dog and my grown children. And we all experience difficult times and pain. And we're all searching to try to find a way to live with more ease, whatever that means, emotionally, mentally, physically. And so the research has shown that today, as we talk about positivity and how important that is, and how you can actually increase that in your life, you can do it. There's been a lot of research and a lot of studies, and in particular, you can seek out some information by a man named Shawn Achor. His last name is Achor. And he's got some bestsellers. He's been on Oprah. He works with large corporations. And he spent a lot of time at Harvard University researching positivity, happiness, and how that affects people. And his research is amazing. And he's worked with people all over the world, organizations, companies, and with great results. And so looking at that data, looking at that information, and then thinking about how that fits in with mindfulness, meditation, yoga, finding a oneness with your body, it all does come together. And so I thought it'd be a great time to bring that together. So the research has shown that positive brains have a biological advantage over brains that are neutral or negative. And we have the capacity to retrain our brains to capitalize on positivity and improve our lives through increased happiness and joy. So we can do this. We can turn on our brain at its highest level, using positivity, using that power, the positivity and the happiness and the joy that comes along with it. We can improve everything from our problem-solving skills, our memory. We can triple our creativity and even raise our intelligence. So positivity is huge. It's very important. And I guess the overarching idea that I really cling on to, it's not reality that shapes us, but the lens that we view the world through. So if we can change the lens, if we can change the way our brain perceives the world and what's happening in the world, we can become more positive and then affect our overall level of happiness and joy. So it's not always what happens to you. It's how you perceive it. It's how you work with it. And you can retrain your brain to be more positive. The research shows that this works. And, folks like Shawn Achor and meditators, meditation teachers, like Susan Piver and Diana Winston, they further explain how that level of joy, level of happiness can be achieved. So it all goes together, the science of, all the research and the work that Shawn Achor has done, plus all the years of practice, meditation, and work that some of these other folks have done. It all comes together. And I think that's really amazing. Because why wouldn't we want to change the way we perceive the world, to create, more positivity, to have ourselves be more functional, to improve. We're always looking to improve our memory, our creativity, what we can do. That reaching and reaching is when I achieve this, when I achieve that, then I will be happy. That actually doesn't work. So we need to retrain our brains to appreciate what's going on right now so that we can find that positivity and happiness no matter what goes on. And so we'll talk about how we can do that. Some of these studies conclude that 75% of job successes are predicted by the level of optimism, social support, and the ability to see stress as a challenge instead of a threat. So think about that. Optimism, huge. Social support, huge. In every way, we seek out social support. And the ability to see stress in a different way. And how amazing would that be for us to see stress in a different way? For us to be able to affect how our body relates and reacts to stress in a different way. So we'll talk about these things and how we can work on these things. The science also proves that when you increase your positivity and happiness levels, that it elevates those around you. Well, there's a big surprise, right? I think it's when you're around someone who is more positive, who is happier, does it not affect you? It affects the climate in the whole room, right? And changes everything. So if it elevates those folks and it increases their ability, their capacity for happiness as well. So when we begin to practice these things and we begin to feel more positive and have increased amount of happiness or joy, then that is going to elevate the folks around us. Not because we're lecturing them, not because we're telling them what to do, but just because we're showing by example, we're elevating. And that's amazing. If we can take the positivity and the connection that we have and that we know and spread it out to the rest of the world, well, that's the whole point. That's the whole point, to create that connection. So being positive in the present can make you happier. Your brain will work more successfully, right? Your brain at positive performs better than at negative or neutral, which is what I just mentioned. And what they've learned, researchers, like Sean Aker, have learned and given to companies and businesses, is that when you're happier and more positive and your brain is working more successfully, you can be 30% more effective, more productive at your job overall. And this being proven is amazing, that you can be 30% more productive just by being happier, being more positive, 30% more productive than at neutral or negative or stressed. So, that's why wouldn't we all want that in every aspect of our life, not just in business. So let's just talk about this, what positivity does, what it does for us physically, mentally, emotionally. Having that positivity floods your system with dopamine. We know what dopamine is. But dopamine also turns on all the learning centers in your brain. So we know that dopamine increases your level, your feel good, you feel better. But it also turns on the learning centers in your brain. So we can train our brains to be more positive. We can have this effect on ourselves. You can rewire your brain to work more optimistically and more successfully. And it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much. It could be a few minutes a day. But the point is that it's done regularly. Like with yoga or meditation or anything, learning an instrument, creating art, practice is involved. Practice is involved. And in yoga, sometimes we use the word discipline. You have to be disciplined. And in yoga, discipline does not mean punishment in any way, shape, or form. It means creating the habit. And so some folks like to think of it as, I have a discipline. I practice my karate, I practice my tai chi, I practice my piano, I practice whatever it is. if you can think of it as a discipline, or you can just think of it as a practice, developing a practice and deciding how rigid that you'd like to be with your practice. That's kind of dependent upon you. I've noticed with myself and with others that I've worked with that for some folks, they can be quite specific. It's quite diligent. And I'm going to do this at this time every day. This is how it's going to be. But unfortunately, sometimes depending on you, you may realize that if you don't do that in that way at that time every day, it creates negative feelings in you, and you become despondent, you become depressed about it, and it changes your overall attitude. So when we say that you can make some changes daily that can retrain your brain, above all, just like in yoga practice or any kind of practice, be kind to yourself. It's okay to cut yourself some slack. And the key to being able to come back if you missed a day, or if it isn't the way you wanted it to be and you just did what you could, the key to that, to be able to come back and keep trying again, is being kind to yourself. Telling yourself, it's okay. I'm going to come back to this tomorrow. To not create a sense of negativity around that. So if you want to begin a practice, whether it's any type of practice, create a little bit of joy around that. Remember why you want to do it, what the outcome is for you. I practice yoga. I developed a yoga practice or meditation practice because I wanted to feel better. And I wanted the people around me to feel better. So whatever reason that you have for creating any type of practice, find the positive reason there, the difference, the change you want to make in your world or others' worlds, and focus on that when you have a bad day, when you just can't do this today, or maybe you can only do a little bit. It's okay. All right, it's okay. Don't beat yourself up over it. Just begin again when you can, and remember the higher reason why you're doing it. Hook into the good feelings surrounding what it is you're looking to achieve for yourself. And that'll help you remember to begin again if you try to create practice and you have some, missteps a little bit here and there. Okay? Because I hate to say, well, if you do these things, this is going to, try not to be too rigid, but do create a practice. And the more and the longer you practice, the more you feel that it will sustain you. Okay? So what we're looking at to make these small changes, to make a big impact. There are specific things that you can do. So I don't know if you have a pencil or a pen nearby, you might want to write these things down. You may be able to remember them. I can definitely, send them along to Karen, and she can post them on the Facebook page or wherever later. But they're not difficult things. The first thing is gratitude. 3 gratitudes, expressing gratitude. So I have a small gratitude journal. It's just a small notebook with a pen attached. And for the last 4 years, I've written in that notebook. And I mean to write in there every day. Sometimes I don't get to it, but most days I write in there things that I'm grateful for from the past day. I do it in the morning. Some folks like to do it at night, remembering what they're grateful for throughout the day. So start with 3 gratitudes every day. Write down 3 things that you're grateful for. 3 things, and they don't have to be big. It could be that beautiful flower you saw on your walk. It could be you're grateful for, your dog coming up and sitting next to you. It could be any of those things. This teaches the brain to scan the world for the positive first before the negative. So we can rewire our brain in this way, where we begin to seek out the positives in life automatically instead of always going to the negative. And that can be huge. So part of your practice would be to write down 3 things that you are grateful for every day. 3 different things or new things if you can, instead of always being the same thing so it becomes rote. You want to train your brain. So search for things in the day that you can be grateful for. Okay, and that will help. It says here, and from Sean Aker's work that I've read, it only needs to be a couple minutes a day, but see if you can do it for 21 days. So you can get your little notebook or whatever, and you can actually date out the 21 days or however you want to do it, and see if you can do these things for 21 days, or some of these things for 21 days to see if they help. So 3 gratitudes, writing down 3 gratitudes. Also journaling. And I do these 2 things together in my notebook. I write down the things I'm grateful for, and then I journal. And the journaling would be writing down 1 positive experience that you've had in the past 24 hours. Because what happens is you write about it, your brain relives it and further imprints in that positivity, that experience, the feeling, the emotion of that experience that you had. So in your journal or book, you can write down 3 new things that you're, little things or big things that you're grateful for each day. And also write down an experience that you had, a few sentences, something that occurred in the past 24 hours, so that you can relive that good feeling. The third thing is physical activity. Now, I've learned through teaching a lot of programs for folks, healthy living programs, weight loss programs, all that kind of stuff, that using the word exercise isn't always the most positive way to put it. But physical activity is a wonderful thing. We know it's great for our brains. My husband experienced a traumatic brain injury 4 years ago, and the neurologist, the therapist, everyone, every single physician or specialist he saw said the single most important way for him to heal his brain was physical activity. And so I got the hint, we got the hint. So what does physical activity look like to you? And is there something you could do every day? Does it have to be the same something? Of course not. Could it be a small yoga practice or a movement practice of some sort? A little bit of, dance or stretching. Could be walking, could be bicycling. Maybe you have fitness equipment at home that you use, but some type of physical activity, whether it's walking your dog or running a mile or whatever it might be, because for you, physical activity may be difficult. And so you have to choose something small. So physical activity is just overall important for your brain, but it creates the habit that your behavior matters. It matters to you. The creating that behavior, physical activity as part of your daily behavior, right? It matters. Your body, your overall health is important to you. It creates that idea that what you do matters. So see if you can find a way to add physical activity in. Maybe you already do. Awesome. That's awesome. And if you want to keep track of that in your journal, you definitely can. I think it's a great thing, especially if that's very positive for you, a positive in your life that you really appreciate, or parts of it that you really appreciate. Okay. Okay. So that leads us to the next one, which is meditation. What are the benefits of meditation? Well, they're varied, but in this case, just a few minutes of meditation, just sitting and focusing on your breathing, keeping yourself, in the present with the task at hand. You can try it, but you can't breathe in the future and you can't breathe in the past. You have to be right here, right now to be breathing and to be focusing on each breath as it comes. So it does counteract that effects of multitasking that some of us have to deal with. It gives us a better sense of focus, and it just teaches your brain to be present. So not worrying about what's going to happen, not reliving what has happened over and over again, but being right here, right now. Meditation is beautiful. And even if it's only a few minutes, sitting quietly, breathing, focusing on your breath. Some people will sit in the morning quietly, meditating as they drink their morning cup of coffee, not reading the paper, not doing anything else, but just being there. Just focusing on what they're experiencing at that moment, what they're seeing, what they're smelling, what they're hearing. So meditation takes many different forms. You could do guided meditation, any kind of focused meditation. All that, meditation is varied. So it doesn't have to be sitting on a cushion chanting or anything like that. Just whatever time you might take for a guided meditation or just to sit on your own. Okay, so, and then the last one, which kind of spreads into the theme of the yoga practice we're going to do today, is random acts of kindness. So what could be a random act of kindness? A short email, a text, a phone call, or a letter to someone in your social circle. Gee, I was just thinking about you. and remembering, when we did this together, and how much I appreciate that, and how much, you mean to me. Or a small act of kindness, a random act of kindness for a neighbor. That could be a physical act of kindness. I know a lot of folks now have been helping their neighbors and helping folks out, and that's wonderful. Maybe you're unable to do that, and that's okay. But a random act of kindness can be as simple as a phrase, a phone call, a text, a letter, whatever that may be. Just saying or helping someone else feel good, showing a kindness in any way. This reminds us that there is goodness in the world. When we perform the random act of kindness, it brings back that reminder that there is goodness in the world, no matter what's happening. And that's very, very powerful. So, small changes, writing down 3 new things that you're grateful for each day, no matter how little or big, journaling about one experience, positive experience that you had in the past 24 hours, physical activity, finding a way to bring a form of physical activity in to your day, meditation, taking a few minutes to meditate, or do a guided meditation, or whatever works for you, and then performing a random act of kindness, no matter how small or how big that is. So if we can bring these things in and incorporate these things into our daily life, then this can help rewire our brain so that we seek out the positive. We see the positive first before the negative, and it can really help make a difference, make us feel happier, more joyful, more creative, physically feeling better, feeling happy, increasing sleep, all those things, memory, everything. So I just encourage you to give it a shot. And even if you can't do all these things on the list, maybe do a few of these things and notice how they go. See if you can do it for the 21 days or something like that, and see how it feels. And give it a shot. The science behind this, again, this is through work from Sean Aker, through some meditation work from Diana Winston. She is the director of the Mindfulness Awareness Research Center at UCLA, and also from Susan Piver. These folks are all authors, so you can definitely seek out any of their books and information. I definitely recommend them, and you could get even more information about positivity, happiness, and creating more joy. Okay, so if you have any questions, I guess we can open that up before we begin our yoga practice.
You might need to move forward a little bit on your chair. You don't want to be resting all the way back. So only the seat is down, and then pull your right knee in towards your belly. So you can either hold on to the back of the thigh or the front of your shin, and you're just going to take some ankle rolls with that.
We'll do that.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay. So moving forward, before we start the yoga practice, so let's base our yoga practice on joy, rediscovering joy, right? There are many ways to create a little bit more joy in your life. We were talking about creating positivity, and these things are all the same. The kindness, random acts of kindness, offering or asking for a kindness. This creates a space that reminds us that no matter how difficult things get, there is goodness, there is kindness in the world. So this can help bring a little bit more joy, to offer or ask for kindness if needed. Also, there's something called sympathetic joy, which is very Buddhist in nature, I guess. But sympathetic joy is sometimes it's hard to find joy in something going on with us. But what about someone else? Can you take joy in other people's happiness? Maybe you can take some joy in other people's happiness. And that way, you know, that will elevate you, create a little joy in your life. You can let that fill you with joy. And then also synchronizing your mind and body. So this flows right into our yoga practice. It's believed that all stress does not just come from having things happen to you. The root cause of stress is when the mind and body split. When you really want to go outside and enjoy being in your garden, but your mind is worrying about the things that you have to do in the next year. So a mind and body split. So see if we can bring the mind and body together. And meditation does that, breathing practice does that, and yoga practice does that. So thinking about, you know, or meditating while you're walking, that's another example of that as well. But meditation, focusing on the breath, can kind of reintroduce your mind and body. Because like I said before, you don't breathe in the present or breathe in the past, you breathe right now. So we want to get the mind and the body doing the same thing. And that's what happens when we're breathing. You know, we're focusing on resting the mind upon breath. Okay, so we can definitely begin the yoga practice. We're going to start seated. So your mat, sit up on your cushion or your blanket, whatever works for you. It would be great if you had a towel or a strap of some sort. So we're going to use that for some of the overhead work that we're going to do. So if you do have that, that's great. And if you don't, that's okay too. I'm going to move some of my stuff, my talking points out of the way so that we can work on the mat. Sometimes it's great to have a blanket of some sort so you can, you know, pad your knees, whatever you need to do. You could always put an extra blanket or towel on top of your mat to make it a little softer for you as well. So let's begin our yoga practice by sitting. So sit up on your blanket or sit up on a cushion or sit in a chair, whatever works for you. So we're just going to breathe for a few minutes, okay, before we start our yoga practice. Okay. So I have a yoga strap. Like I said, you could use a towel. I'm going to set these over here near me so I have them. Feel your body sitting, whether it's sitting in the chair or on the floor. As you breathe, roll the shoulders up, back and down, inhaling and exhaling. See if you can focus on the body and the breath together, synchronizing the mind, the body, the breath. Not going too fast, taking your time. Reach up through the top of the ears to lengthen through the back of the neck. Soften the shoulders. Create some width between the fronts of the shoulder joints. Just a few moments while you breathe, focus on something that brings you joy or has brought you joy. A small thing or a big thing, it doesn't matter. Inhale and exhale the breath. I like to feel the breath as a gentle sway, as if in a hammock. Inhaling, the hammock swings away. Exhaling, the hammock sways back. This may allow you to rest your mind upon your breath, that gentle feeling of a hammock, swaying outward and swaying back in with each half of breath. Focusing on something that you are feeling joy, brings you that feeling of joy. Notice how that presents itself in your body. When you think about a joyful moment or a joyful time, something that brought you that wonderful feeling, where do you notice it? You notice it in your chest, in your belly? Where do you notice that? What sensations in your physical body may come from that reliving that moment of joy? Let's place our hands at heart center. You can open your eyes gently. Think about connecting, keeping that mind and the body connected. And breath is the key to that. So as we practice our movement, our yoga practice, we can keep the mind and the body together and focused, using the breath to help us do that. Great job. So sitting, whether in a chair or on the floor, please sit up on a blanket or a cushion, whatever you have. You can widen the flesh of your back end back behind you, kind of draw it back behind you a bit. You can sit up a little bit taller, rolling the shoulders back. If you have a strap, that's great. If you have a towel, it's great. If you don't, that's fine too. I'm going to start by rolling the shoulders back. And then when we're ready, shoulders roll up, back, and down. Nice, easy breaths. We're going to bring the towel or the strap out in front of us, give ourselves some width so our hands can be wider than our shoulders. On an inhalation, press down to the sit bones, reach up gently. You don't have to go very far. Inhaling and exhaling. And inhaling, reaching down to the sit bones, kind of reach up, not just through the arms, but maybe reaching up to the sides of the waist as well. It's okay to have a bend in the elbows. This may be very challenging for you. You can widen your hands on the strap of the towel farther apart. That makes it feel better. Noticing as you move and breathe, what your range of motion is like today. So maybe your shoulders are a little stiff, or you have a less of a range of motion due to activities you were doing or physical issue that you have, but that's okay. We work with the body that we have. Awesome. When you're ready, inhale up, and then maybe exhale by reaching over the arms to one side. Now let's bring the arms down in front. We're holding onto a strap. Bring the arms to the other side and back up. You'll notice this activates your torso, so breathe. Inhaling up and exhaling over and to the front. Inhaling up and exhaling. A little roundness to the spine as we exhale to the front. Inhale up nice and tall, sitting through the sit bones. Exhale. You don't have to have your legs crossed. And again, you could do this seated in a chair. You could do this with your legs out in front of you. Let's circle in the other direction now. Inhaling up and exhaling. Inhaling up. We carry stress in our shoulders and our neck. So thinking about kindness, movement, and breath, staying in the moment, noticing what our body's feeling. Don't have to be ahead of ourselves or thinking about what happened earlier. Just right here, right now. And maybe one more. You can go slow. You can go a little faster. It's whatever works for you. Come back to the center position. You can place the strap or towel on the side. Once again, bring the shoulders back. And place the fingertips near the hips in what is potted palm position, so adjacent to the hips. Reaching the right arm over, walking the left fingertips out. Ooh, maybe you have a cushion here underneath the left hand. Feeling the stretch up along the rib cage from the right hip to the right armpit. And back down. And then the other side, inhaling. You don't have to plant or glue your hips down. We definitely don't want to do that. We just want the pelvis and the hips to remain heavy. Inhaling. Exhaling, see if you can come inside and notice how this feels. The sides of your rib cage, maybe you're feeling it in the back. When you're doing these movements seated, you're using core strength. So you are activating the muscles in the front of the torso and the muscles along the back body. Also the muscles along the side waist as you side bend from side to side. And we're going to roll the shoulders back. So we're going to create a little bit more flexibility. You can redo any of the things that we've done, or you can add on. I'm going to take my hands. I'm going to press my one palm against the back of your hand. Some folks can clasp, interlace, and push. It's completely up to you what you choose to do. Inhale up, pressing down to the sit bones. Exhale, fingertips behind the ears, just widening the shoulders, letting the front of the chest open. Inhale, reach up. To press down to the sit bones. Exhale, widen the elbows. Keep thinking that you're gently engaging those abdominals to keep you sitting up nice and tall. And exhale. Try not to thrust the chest or the head or chest forward when the elbows go back. You don't need to do that. Keep reaching up through the tops of the ears. Feel the length of the neck. It doesn't feel like you're creating any stress. in the shoulders or in the neck. Inhaling the hands up now. This time as we exhale, you're going to turn the palms in towards your chest and reach out with the back of the hands, opening up the shoulder blades. Inhale, palms up. And exhale, reaching out, palms turn in, opening up the shoulder blades, wrapping the back of the rib cage around the front of the chest. Inhaling and exhaling and inhaling and exhaling. And release. Take a breath or two just to notice how that feels. Move the shoulders around. This time we're going to inhale both sets of fingertips up. And as we exhale, we're going to turn to our right, floating the hands down, letting them fall wherever they fall. Left the back fingertips behind you, front fingertips on maybe the front leg, but you don't have to push or torque. Keeping a tall spine, reaching up to the tops of the ears. Just inhale back to center. And exhale as we turn the opposite direction. Notice with each exhalation, the belly draws in. It supports the twist. Let's do it a few more times. Inhale and exhale. And inhaling. Go at any pace that works for you. Maybe going a little more quickly with your breath today, maybe going a little bit more slowly. It feels good when you go at the right pace for you so that you're actually breathing and moving together, staying synchronized to a degree, so you're right in this present moment and not ahead of yourself or behind yourself, thinking about what has happened or what will happen, but actually focusing on the feelings of what your body's doing right now. Inhale the arms up and exhale, hands to heart center. Awesome job. Last thing that we're going to do is bring our hands behind our back. So you can hold your thumb, you can hold your towel if you have it, thinking that this naturally may want to round your spine. So keep lifting up through the tops of the ears and pressing down through your sit bones. Feel the fronts of the shoulder joints wide. You keep your elbows bent behind you. You do not have to straighten your arms. You don't need to lock out your joints. You're feeling the shoulder blades come together. See if you can get those lower tips of your shoulder blades to lower down just a little bit more. Just breathing, sitting tall as you can. And then when you're ready, inhale the arms up. Exhale, take a twist to the right. Inhale, center, arms up. Exhale, take a twist to the left. Notice when you're twisting, one shoulder blade moves forward, one shoulder blade moves back. Now inhale to the front, clasp the hands behind the back in whatever way works for you. Thinking of reaching up to the tops of the ears, widening the front of the shoulders. Taking an inhale here. And as we exhale, walking the fingertips forward, rounding the spine a little bit, and maybe releasing the head. So we don't need to completely flop the whole body down towards the floor to gravity, but basically walk the fingertips out a bit so you can round the spine, more even curve. Take a few breaths here into the back of your lungs, into the back of your rib cage. And then gently walk fingertips in. Come back to seated. Great job. Okay, so let's move on to all fours so we can do some cat-cow stretches. If you're in a chair, you can sit more towards the front edge of the chair, widen the legs, the knees, and the feet apart, and do your cat-cow stretches with your hands on your thighs. Here on the mat, you can always pad your knees as needed. Wrists are slightly forward of the shoulders, and turn your inner elbow creases in to look at each other instead of letting them turn outward, okay? Your toes can be tucked under, the tops of the feet down. Inhale, lift the tailbone, and lift the sternum. Let the head follow the lift of the sternum. Just breathe, let gravity allow the belly to sink and lower. Feel how the bottom tips of the shoulder blades slide down, the tailbone lifts. On the next inhalation, push away from the ground with the base of the thumb and index finger and lift the spine up towards the sky, relaxing the head down. Let the tailbone tuck, become heavy between the thighs. As you push gently against the floor, the shoulder blades widen away from each other, the head relaxes down. Then you can go back and forth between cat and cow, any way you like. You can inhale to the cow pose. You can feel it by the movement at the hips or the shoulders and the hips. You can inhale or exhale on cat pose. Just go back and forth, inhale and exhale. Connect the breathing with the movement, please. That way, you can stay right here where you are. You can notice all the sensations that happen in different parts of the body as you move this way. And just one more gently. And then let's come back to the all fours position. Inhaling here, exhaling, widening the hips back towards your heels, reaching the arms out in front of you. Maybe you want to slide the forearms in and the elbows and bring the fist in and relax your forehead on your fists. Maybe you like the feeling of length in the spine as you reach out, nice long spine as you're sitting the hips back. You can even come up on the fingertips, create a little bit more strength as if you're lifting the pit of your armpits up. Do what works, don't do anything that hurts or feels very uncomfortable. You can walk the hands over to the right corner. Again, you can place the hands down or be up on the fingertips. A little lift through the pits of the armpits. Still reaching back to the hips, opening up the back of the hips. Feeling the length on that left side of your waist. Breathing into the left lung. And walking the fingertips back to center, inhaling, exhaling over to the left corner. Again, sitting the hips back, keeping the armpits lifted, the pits of the armpits lifted. Feel the length that you're creating through the whole spine, but definitely through the right side, breathing into the right side of the ribs. This is going to create a little bit of length for us. It opens up the back of our hips a bit. It also creates length through the side waist. Notice how it feels as you breathe into that right lung. And walking the hands back, placing the hands. When you're ready, inhaling forward, sliding the torso forward for plank pose. This can be done up against a wall. You can definitely stand your feet away from the wall, bend the elbows and bring yourself to a plank pose at the wall as well. And then exhale, pressing the hips back. You can do this a few more times if you like the feeling of it. You can come forward to a knee down plank pose, or you can work in a full plank pose if that's something that you enjoy doing. And exhaling back. You even have the option of coming into downward facing dog as opposed to doing your knee down plank pose and pressing back to extended child's pose. If you'd like to do downward facing dog, which would be a wonderful stretch for the back of the hips and the legs. Again, wrists are slightly forward of the shoulders. Inner elbow creases look at each other. Press down to the base of the thumb and index finger to kind of protect the wrists and elbows. Tuck the toes under. Think of lifting yourself up through your belly button. Lift up through the belly button and then push the hands forward and down, reaching the hips back, keeping the knees bent. This can also be done up against a wall as well, or with the hands on a counter version of downward facing dog. You can bend one knee and bend the other. So this is pedaling the feet. Keep pressing, reaching out, pressing down through your hands, pushing the floor away, feeling the shoulder blades widen, not come together. Just breathe. Notice the sensations here as you breathe. It's okay if your knees are bent. It's okay if your heels don't get close to the floor. And then when you're ready, you're going to take an inhale forward to either plank or knee down plank, whichever one you would like to do. And on the next exhalation, bend the elbows and lower down onto the belly. Widen the legs a little further apart so you don't feel anything in the lower back. Tops of the feet go down, heels roll out a bit. You can slide the forearms forward and lift the chest up for Sphinx Pose. This is a wonderful back bend, so we can start with this one. So when we do a Sphinx Pose, we have the elbows underneath the shoulders, and imagine you are dragging the elbows back towards your feet. Keep the pelvis relaxed, no tucking at the tailbone, no work there. The thigh bones are what feels heavy. Gently pressing a little bit down to the thigh bones, tops of the feet. Again, imagine, it's called the isometric contraction. You're drawing the elbows back and widening the fronts of your shoulders apart, feeling the collarbone become a little smoother. should be able to turn your head gently to look over the left and right shoulder without any catching. Again, just do a little bit. Just do what works for you today. So this is a great place to be. Or if you have lower back issues, sometimes this is a nice, comfortable, easy way to do back bending. We can take it a little further. Release down, widen the elbows, and then slide the hands underneath the shoulders, elbows tuck in, and reach back towards the heels. As we get ready to do a little baby cobra, again, we press down through the thigh bones and the tops of the feet. Gently draw your rib cage up away from the top of your pants to lift the chest just a few inches, wide in the front of the shoulders apart. See if you can smooth that collarbone, move your head smoothly from left to right. How high you come up isn't determined by how much you could push away from the floor with your hands. You want to come forward and up and out. You want to draw the spine up and out of the body of the pelvis. Inhale here, exhale lower. So now you have the option to do this together as a series in whatever way works for you. So at the modified level here, you can chuck the toes under, elbows in and drawing back towards your feet. When you come up, back to all fours or downward facing dog, depending on what you're interested in doing, use that belly on an exhale. Inhale here, exhale. Hold the belly in, press back to extended child's pose or downward facing dog. Whichever you want to do. And you might do like a few seconds of downward facing dog and then come back to extended child's pose. That's okay. Just feel what your body's feeling. Take a moment in each pose to breathe. A few breaths and tweak it a little bit. Press down to the earth. Reach the hips back. When you are ready, inhale forward to your plank pose, whether you come down on your knees or not. Inhale here, exhale, lower down to the floor. So now you can take the Sphinx pose with the forearms forward, or you can do the Cobra pose with the hands underneath the shoulders, tops of the feet go down. When you are ready, on an inhalation, length through the back of the neck, reaching the spine up and out of the pelvis. Thighs wide enough so you don't feel anything crunching up or restricting you. Press down to the thigh bones and tops of the feet. Widen in front of the shoulders, take another breath. And exhale, release down. Tucking the toes under, we're going to push back to child's pose. On an exhalation, puff the belly up and away from the floor. Elbows point to the feet. Inhale. Exhale, press back. Great job. So in child's pose, you can widen your knees as much as you'd like to. It's completely up to you. Draw the forearms in so you can maybe place your head on your fists. Or you can stack one hand on top of the other, put your forehead there. Child's pose is a resting pose, and it is a forward bend. So you need to just round the spine in child's pose. So tuck the tailbone a little bit more. Soften the belly up in. Nestle the low belly up in towards the pelvis. Let the spine round. And bring the elbows in and the hands in a little closer. Coming back to the all fours position. Great job, great job. Now we're going to roll over and line our backs and do some more work for our hips and our legs. So at the end of class, if you want to do a Shavasana and relax, have some cushions or pillows nearby to put underneath your knees. When you lie in Shavasana for your final relaxation, have those ready. When you come down one vertebrae at a time, hands on the thighs, very gentle, very easy. Just lying down on your mat with your knees bent. Feet can be hips width apart, knees hips width apart. On an exhalation, bring one knee and the other knee in towards the chest. And rock a little bit across the bottom part and lower back of the hips. Make circles with the knees. Inhaling and exhaling. Make sure you go in both directions if you're making those circles. Again, you can always pad your mat with a towel or a blanket when we get close to the floor like this, so it's a little softer for you. Let's bend the knees with the feet up towards the ceiling. So we have the hands on the back of the thighs. Circle your ankles gently. You can go counterclockwise or clockwise, and then circle the other direction. My ankles go snap, crackle, pop, so I apologize for that, but that's just the way it works. It's all good. And maybe squinch the toes and release them. Squinch the toes and release them. Point and flex. Yep, it was my ankle. That's okay. So flattening the top of the feet towards the ceiling as if you were standing on the ceiling. Inhale, and then exhale, widen and draw the thighs in towards the sides of your waist. So this is a deconstructed squat or an upside down squat. Imagine that with each exhalation, your thigh bones get a little bit heavier and sink a little bit more deep. You can keep the hands on the back of the thighs. It's a great place to be. Some folks who do this kind of pose a lot can place their hands on their shins, not for the purpose of pulling or yanking anything down, just because it feels good to them. Some folks are very flexible, have widen the knees a little bit more, bring them down a little more, can hold on to their big toes with their second, third fingers. Some folks reach the outer edge of the ankle. It's completely up to you. Very often I just place my hands behind my thighs. I just think it feels a little bit better. Hip stretches are very relaxing. They also increase your mobility in the hips. Your hip joints are joints of stability. They take a lot of impact from the weight of our bodies and gravity. So it's nice to open the hips up closer to the floor, a little bit more relaxing. And then when you're ready, when you feel content with how much you've done, you can place the feet on the floor. Beautiful. Opening up the outer hips is challenging, but loosening up the piriformis can be very important. Bring the right knee in towards the chest, place the right foot and ankle, and brighten the foot, flex the foot, place it over the opposite knee, and widen the right knee out to the right. This may incur a big stretch for you in that outer hip, which feels great, and you want to stay right here. Some folks would like to lift the left foot off the floor in this stretch called thread the needle. You're more than welcome to do that as well. Hands behind the thigh, or if you have big thighs like me, sometimes it's more comfortable to put a strap or a blanket and hold that, or a small towel and hold that to hold the thigh off the ground. Everyone's a little different with that. But just noticing what you feel. Take some easy breaths here. Notice what you're feeling in that outer right hip and gluteal area on the right side. See if with each exhalation, you can sink a little more deeply in towards the ground. Feel the stretch a little bit more. It's a wonderful thing when you become in tune with your body and you practice, physical activity with your body. You can actually feel the results while you're doing it, right after you do it, the residual an hour later. So it's wonderful to take your time and notice what your body's feeling. You can switch to the other side whenever you're ready. Placing the left foot and ankle over the top of the right thigh, widening the left knee to the left without pressing on it, just widening it with your own intention, gently pressing the edge of the left foot against the right thigh. This may be just where you need to be, because if you gently press the left foot against the right thigh and widen the left knee to the left, you're going to feel sensation here. And this may be excellent. And maybe you like this with your arms out, or you like this with your arms overhead. Be a little creative with it and kind of experiment and see where you feel it, when you feel it, how you like it. What feels good to you. You have the option, of course, to bring the right foot off the floor and bring the hands behind the right thigh, and that's more of a thread the needle position. And that's cool. You can definitely do this. I feel it a lot, especially on one side more than the other side, depending on what I do. So you may be noticing that as well. It definitely feels different. Don't forget to keep this crossed foot and ankle bright. We want to make sure that we keep the ankle joint and the knee joint in beautiful alignment. So that takes a strong foot, so that any tightness in the hip doesn't skew the alignment in the knee or ankle and cause any issues. Very often tight hips can cause knee issues. So these stretches, hip stretches, forward bending, downward facing dog. This position here done in a chair is wonderful. One foot and ankle crossed over the other side. When you've had enough of this one, you can release it down. Again, it's how you feel. Last twist that we can do is we can walk the feet away from each other, the knees away from each other. You can reach the arms out. Inhale here. Exhale both knees to the left. You're going to feel a big stretch in the right hip. You're going to feel the right side of the pelvis rock up off the floor. That's excellent. That's wonderful. You can hold here for a few breaths, seeing if you can just let the legs and the body relax to gravity. You can tweak it or change it a little bit to feel more comfortable for you. Or you can go back and forth, enjoying an inhalation and exhalation with the twist. Inhaling the knees up and then exhaling and over to the other side. Feeling this, a great stretch for the quadriceps for the front of the hip. Then you can just do this back and forth, inhaling the knees up, exhaling and over to the side. Or you can hold it on each side for a few breaths and staying right in the moment and noticing what are the physical sensations that I'm having right now as you breathe. Create that connection in the body that helps create joy. Synchronizing the mind and the body together and the breath. And go back and forth with this twist or holding on each side, whichever seems to feel the best to you. Okay? We're going to bring the knees up, walk the feet in. So it's time for Shavasana. I mentioned that you could get a cushion or some cushions, place them underneath your knees. That's a great thing to do. Whatever you may have available to you. I have stuff available to me, pillows with couch. So I can definitely put those, underneath my knees. Just underneath the crook of the knees, any type of cushion. Because having the knees even slightly higher than the hips can cause a little bit of relaxation to happen in the lower back. So it can be a good thing. So even if your knees are up a little higher, or you're laying on the floor and you have your calves up on the seat of a chair, or up on if you're right up near your couch or love seat and have your butt right up near there, and you have your legs up on the seat of the couch or love seat with knees bent, that's great too. Rock the head a little bit to the right and left. Moving the chin down a little bit so the chin isn't way higher than the forehead. So it's a little bit, so you're resting more on the lower part of the back of the roundness of the skull. And you can keep your hands on your belly. You can relax your arms out. Bringing in a big inhalation. On the exhale, let everything go. Let everything go. Each inhalation and exhalation. Each inhalation, a feeling of fullness or lifting or spaciousness inside the body. And each exhalation, releasing and relaxing the gravity. You can practice that feeling of cradling the mind on the breath. In each inhale, the hammock swings out. Each exhale, the hammock swings in. Noticing that little pause at the end of the exhale and letting the inhale rise up from there. Finding a way to just focus gently on the sway of the breath. Let the mind relax there. Release the arms and shoulders against the support of the ground. Relax the jaw, soften the eyes. Please take this opportunity to stay in Shavasana for as long as you like, letting the mind rest upon the wave of each breath, letting the body soften and relax. Thank you so much for joining me for this talk and yoga practice, for celebrating your survivorship with me today.